Thanks for taking the communication style assessment. Now, let's find out about your communication style. Looking at your results, you're an analytical communicator. What does that mean? You like hard data, real numbers, and you tend to be suspicious of people who aren't in command of the facts and data. You tend to like very specific language and dislike vague language. For example, when somebody tells you sales are positive, you're likely to think, what does positive mean? 5.2% or 8.9%? Give me a number. And analytical communicators tend to have little patience for lots of feeling and emotional words in communication. The plus of being an analytical communicator is that because you like communication to be fairly unemotional, you're often able to look at issues logically and dispassionately. And others will often see you as having high levels of data and informational expertise. The potential downside is that you may strike certain people as cold or unfeeling. For example, when interacting with people like personal communicators who tend to like warm and chatty personal relationships, it's possible for analytical communicators to get irritated and terse, and that can sometimes have political and relational consequences. Now, I find it's useful to understand all four styles, at least at a high level. We measure this on a scale of emotionality and linearity. So let's start in the upper right. The intuitive person, fairly unemotional, fairly non-linear, which means they like the big picture. They like to cut right to the chase. Whereas the functional communicator is going to go A, then B, then C, then D, then E, then F, then G. If this is annoying you, by the way, you're probably an intuitive communicator. The intuitive communicator wants to skip right to Z. They're going to say, listen, I don't want all the detail. I don't want all the nitty-gritty. I just want to cut right to the chase. I don't need to go in order. I need to cut right to the chase. Just give me the bottom line. The opposite of the intuitive tends to be the functional. The functional is that highly linear communicator. They are going to go step A, then B, then C, then D, then E, then F, then G. Why? Because you don't want to miss H and I and J. The intuitive communicator, while they get right to Z and they tend to move faster, they do risk missing H and I and J. The analytical communicator is your data person. This is the person who wants decimal points. They want numbers, they want decimal points. They do not want to hear, I feel like our sales are going pretty well this month. I don't know what pretty well means. I want to hear a number. Is it 8.7%? Is it 5.2%? What is the number? If your analytical person is IQ, your personal communicator is EQ, because they are more likely to use the F word. And no, don't be a dirty birdie, it's not that F word, it's feel. They are likely to think about how people are actually reacting. What are they anticipating? What are they feeling right now? How bought in are they? Are they not bought in? They're going to be reading the body language and the facial expressions of the people that they're speaking to and evaluating whether or not they are emotionally connecting with the message. How can you tell who you're talking to if you're in a group, for example? Well, one, you may actually know the people and have gotten a pretty good sense as to where they fall. Number two, however, imagine you ask the question, what's one thing I could share with you today that would make this a great use of your time? Which, side note, is a question you 100% should be asking every single time you begin a presentation of any kind. The intuitive person is likely to ask you things like, hey, where does it get us? What's the bottom line? Can you just cut to the chase for me? Can we throw some ideas around? Can we brainstorm? I don't care everything you prepared. Let's just get to the bottom line. Give me the end point. The analytical person is likely to ask you questions about numbers. Where did that data actually come from? How do we know? Did you validate it? Can you show me the calculations? Where did that come from? How can I be sure? The functional communicator is likely to say to you, what's the process? What happens first? Walk me through the stages. Step A, then B, then C, then D, step 1, step 2, step 3, etc., etc. And the personal communicator is likely to say, well, how are people feeling about this? Who's bought in? Who's not bought in? How are they going to feel about this? Who's going to be involved? How do we get their buy-in? And right now today, because you've taken the time to go through this assessment and you're clearly interested in communication, I want to give you a chance to get a digital copy of my latest book, Managing Narcissists, Blamers, Dramatics, and More. This book is the definitive guide with science-backed scripts for managing difficult personalities. For just $7, which is less than you can get it for at any bookstore, I'm going to give you a PDF version of the book. You're going to learn how to manage dramatics. Dramatics are those people who crave being the center of attention and use intense emotions to blow simple events out of proportion. You're going to learn how to use the FIRE model to remove inflammatory emotions and have rational, fact-based dialogues. You're going to learn how to manage negative personalities. This person expects the worst, and their negativity can stifle creativity, innovation, growth into new markets, confidence, optimism, enthusiasm, and more. So you're going to learn how to use a cognitive restructuring script to debunk their negativity and stop it from spreading to your team. Blamers. These negative personalities trying to deflect responsibility for any tough issue onto somebody else, but you're going to learn to use a redirection script to force them to take accountability. Problem bringers. Problem bringers appear to have no interest in independent problem solving, which creates tons of extra work and frustration for anybody else. So you're going to get a fast one-sentence script for breaking this parent-child dynamic and immediately helping them become independent and proactive. The confidently incompetent. Have you ever dealt with somebody whose performance stinks, and they're not only clueless that their performance stinks, but they actually think that their performance is fantastic? You're going to learn a 3-part script for developing self-awareness that teaches them about the gaps in their performance so they can improve. And of course, narcissists. These are the people that have an exaggerated sense of self-importance that presents in wanting excessive admiration and often comes from envy and a fragile sense of self. You're going to learn a 4-part script for gently bursting their bubble without destroying their fragile ego so they remain productive workers. Now, let me answer the obvious question. Mark, if this book is so amazing, how come you're letting me download the entire thing for $7? You get tens of thousands of dollars for your speeches. Why are you giving me this book for $7 measly? What's the catch? Here's the truth. I'm doing it because you don't know me yet. You don't care that I'm a New York Times bestseller, or that I'm a senior contributor at Forbes, or that I've been featured in the New York Times, Fortune, the Wall Street Journal, or that I've trained leaders at the United Nations, Harvard Business School, Microsoft, MasterCard, and thousands more. You haven't yet personally experienced what I do and how good our work actually is. So here's what I do. I put out great content and I practically give it away, because in my career I found that's how I get clients. The United Nations read my book Hard Goals and called me a week later to say, please come to Bonn, Germany to our worldwide training headquarters and teach our diplomats. Harvard Business School read my book on managing Generation Y and a month later called me and said, whoa, you've got to teach us how to manage millennials. And if you read my work, there's a very good chance that at some point down the road, you're going to attend one of our programs or bring me into your organizations. And honestly, that's why I'm giving you my book, Managing Narcissists, Blamers, and Dramatics and More, for a measly $7. The book is the definitive guide with science-backed scripts for managing difficult personalities. So all you need to do is this. Take advantage of the special one-time offer. Just click the button on the page. Go ahead, do it right now. While you're on this page, while you're thinking about it, just click the button.